How's it going, fellas? I've been holding this story for a while because it's probably one of the wildest ones I have. It's basically a story of when someone more or less ruined their lives in only a couple of seconds, bro. Like, you'll hear in a second, but this one's kind of crazy. Don't forget to leave a like on the video to get your free nothing, and with that being said, let's jump right into it. So this takes place my junior year, and it's like every junior has to have this like very important piece of writing that they have to do, and basically they present it in front of their class, and winners are picked from each class, and the winner picked from each class basically goes and presents it to everyone in this auditorium at the last couple of months of school, and then there's a winner picked from that, which is like read aloud to everyone in the school. So it's a really big deal. It's probably one of the biggest assignments I get like my entire 4 years at my high school, besides obviously like college essays and stuff like that. But it was a really big deal. And so I presented mine in my class, and I didn't win. Mine wasn't terrible by any means. I think it was pretty decent, but it didn't win. It wasn't anything special, and there were ones in my class that were just simply better, bro. Like, sometimes you just gotta admit defeat to the competition. Sometimes people are just simply better than you, and that's okay. So anyways, I don't win mine, and I'm kind of like talking to other people, hearing about the winners of the other classes, and I'm talking to my friends, and they're like, oh, it was so good, like, the winners were really good, and like, because most of the time, like, I'm gonna be honest, when people present in class, like, me and most people are normally somewhat half asleep, but it's like no disrespect to the people that are presenting their work. Like, let's be real, you're presenting your work not to enlighten your classmates or entertain your classmates. You're presenting your work because you have to, and you want to make sure that you get a good grade in the assignment, and you also know that everyone else is going to be kind of asleep at the same time, so it's not really that disrespectful. But there were some, like, the winners in each class, like, people actually, like, I don't know if I want to say moved is the correct word, but they were definitely like taken aback by the works that they were hearing. So basically, each class has chosen a winner, and a couple weeks go by, and now me and a bunch of other people are going, actually everyone in my grade, we're going into an auditorium to listen to all of these projects. So I walk into the auditorium with my friend, let's call him John. So John and I walk into the auditorium, we sit down, and we're getting ready to listen to all the people's work, right? So we have a little list that was given out, which shows all the people and the names of their projects, right? So we're listening, and we're kind of just like, oh, wow, that's pretty good, or like, oh, that's pretty good, like, don't think it's gonna win, but pretty good, or be like, oh, wow, this one's probably gonna win. And I remember I was sitting next to John, and when someone was presenting, I was like, oh, this one's pretty clever, but he had a look on his face. I was like, kind of confused what was up with it, because it wasn't like that profound, and it also wasn't that bad, because normally you'll like have some kind of like reaction when something stands out, either for good reasons or not so good reasons. So basically, this person finishes presenting, everyone's clapping. However, here's the thing. I was noticing that it wasn't just my friend John who had this kind of weird look on his face. There was like probably around 5, 6, 7 other of the 50, 100 people that were sitting in that auditorium that were like looking around, like they were like turning around in their seats. Like they weren't just talking to the people like next to them. Like they were like looking out for people in the auditorium to try and get their attention or make eye contact. So all of a sudden, I knew something was up. So I turned to John, I'm like, hey, bro, what's going on? And he's like, that presentation sounded really familiar. And at first I was like, well, did they present in your class? I'm going to call the person who presented the work that was like, everyone was like having this reaction about, we'll call her Sandra. Let's hope I remember that name. So John basically explains to me that his teacher beforehand, like before actually having the assignment due, he handed out old copies of like really good work in the past. Basically, he handed out copies of winners of the previous years so that people can get a sense of like what level is like the writing that, you have to submit. Kind of a reference point, maybe some inspiration, maybe some tips or something. But basically, John was like, dude, Sandra's like work is identical to the work that he listened to in his class. And the reason was that all those people, like I think 9, 10 people were like turning around in the auditorium. It was because they were all in John's class, and they all heard this one specifically, this old winning work. And the thing is, not every teacher handed out the same winning work. Actually, the only class that heard that winning work was John's class. So most people were oblivious. Like I was oblivious until John told me. But basically, there was about 9 or 10 people that had already heard Sandra's work. and something was up. So I didn't notice this at the time, but John told me afterwards that he looked at his teacher. John looked at his teacher, the one that assigned basically Sandra's work verbatim, and his face was just a bit of confusion, to say the least. So a couple days go by, and then John tells me that Sandra just didn't appear in class today. And here's the thing. Sometimes people will be sick, sometimes people will sleep in through classes, but also sometimes if you're having a disciplinary hearing, basically where, academic office is like having a meeting with you, you'll be missing classes. And that's what the speculation was right away, and it was true. So John basically talks to some of his friends, and he fills me in on the details. And this is basically what happened. So Sandra didn't know what to write, and Sandra was looking through old copies of old winners because that was publicly available. Either it was publicly available or somehow she found old copies of winners, and she found one that was really good. And she basically copied it verbatim. It wasn't like word for word, but it was like a few words off from word for word. So it was very close, and definitely a breach of like the academic policy. And so basically what John and I believe was that Sandra didn't really want to win because once she won, she definitely had a much higher risk. But basically what she was trying to do was basically copy an old winner that was not read aloud in her class. So her class read aloud old winners because it was handed out by her teacher, but this was not one of the old winners her class read. So they wouldn't know that this was an old winner. Basically what Sandra wanted was for her to get a good grade, but not to win. And basically Sandra presented, and it was so good because it was a past winner, right? So it was already really good that eventually the voting happened, and it went down to between Sandra and another person. So Sandra and this other person are just standing in front of the class. And Sandra is realizing at that moment that if they vote her to win, to be the big winner, that she's going to have to present in front of everyone. And then there's a good chance she gets caught and most likely expelled. So she's probably standing up there. And then the moment of truth happens. Within a couple seconds, they do the final vote, and Sandra wins. And most of the time, like, you would expect that, oh, you won for your class? Like, that's awesome. Like, you're guaranteed a good grade. You get to present in front of everyone. But basically, when Sandra won, she won an expulsion. It was crazy. So, of course, when something like this happens, word spreads quickly. And, people are starting to say, like, oh, I'm not seeing Sandra in my class. I'm not seeing Sandra in my class. Like, I wonder what happened. And after a couple of days, we eventually get confirmation that Sandra's gone. She literally got expelled because of this. And it's so crazy that literally, like, if only a few other people voted in the other direction during the class vote, she probably would have been 100% fine. There's a chance that, like, her work would have been circulated and someone would have recognized it, but it was basically her fate was sealed when she won for her class. Because, if you guys don't remember, when you win for your class, then you go in front of everyone. And I don't know, man, it was just like, it was a weird time. It was a weird thing that happened because she was gone. I've never seen her ever again. Fellas, if you enjoyed today's story video, click the story time playlist you see on screen right now. It'll bring you basically to all my stories, and you can watch all the old ones you missed. And make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. I post 1 to 2 times every day. And also, if you don't want to click on the story time playlist, literally click on any other video you see on screen right now, and I'll literally love you forever. Thanks. Bye.